Welcome back. I did remember something about my New York City trip because I just checked my Facebook messages and Donovan had sent Harry and I in a group chat a blind bag of Cowboy Bebop, the anime, little figures that you can attach. And there were, do you know, have I spoken of this? I think so. Yes. Well, my shipper spotlights, how Uran High School Host Club is one of my favorite anime. And they had some of those blind bags, and I just wanted Haruhi. And I was groping those bags, and I thought, okay, let's do it. And Donovan was very kind. He said, I'll get one too. So we have, you can have two chances. And I said, okay, that's very kind. So I groped, bought it. I opened it up, and I got myself a Haruhi. She's shy. She was turned away from the camera. She's very cute. I saw it was lovely. Donovan gave me a big old hug. He knew I was excited. Okay. So we are going to do some modern stuff. So I do want to first say that I did read the urban legends because it was part 2 of the Birds of Prey in quotation marks story. But yeah, I don't know. Katana doesn't buy what Lady Shiva is selling for a second about the new Birds of Prey, and she's going to let her know personally is the synopsis there. I don't have too much to say. I felt like not a lot happened. I think I'm just reading it because it says Birds of Prey, and I wonder if this is going to develop into something else. But if this is the backdoor pilot, I'm not really interested. So take that for what it's worth. Okay, here we go. Everyone's favorite, Nightwing. This is Nightwing 92. I think it's called Get Grayson. Why do I keep doing this? No, it's not called that. It's called The Battle for Bloodhaven's Heart. Writer Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo is the artist, Adriano Lucas is the colorist. Let me go back to this. It's very cool. I think I initially didn't, even though with the squint test, it's mostly Nightwing, but the red's back there. And I was like, oh, that's Heartless and Blockbuster. I didn't even notice, but pretty cool cover per usual. Okay, so I wanted to say that Donovan gets review copies in advance, and he had texted me that I should ask my audiences whom Batman is wanting to fire. Well, he says, who is Batman wanting to fire? Question mark, question mark, question mark, all caps. And he gives me 5 options. Dick Grayson / Robin, Barbara Gordon / Batgirl, Alfred Pennyworth / Butler, all of the above, none of the above. Now, Twitter polls only give you 4 options. So I did not do the none of the above because we, of course, know that that's not an option, really. So 14% of people, 0% said Dick Grayson, 14% said Barbara, 7% said Alfred, and 79% said all of the above. Now, I'm totally on board, all of the above. But 2 people, because I did the calculations, 2 people were just plain trolls. I'll find out who you are. You did this to me on purpose because you said Barbara and no one said Dick. And that is ridiculous. Let's get into it. So I'll ask this to you, kind listeners. After you, I guess, read this issue, you can write in and let me know whom do you think Batman is wanting to fire. So first of all, I love the coloring on this, just that it makes it look super vintage. But yeah, oh man. So Robin is told to stay out of it. Don't engage. Robin engages. So first firing, bam. That's why you trolled me, because he should have been fired. He disobeyed a direct order. Okay. And then he gets himself into trouble. Oh boy, I'm having some deja vu to the first part of this podcast where the same thing happened with Cass. So Batgirl sees this. She's calling out to him. Batman says, help is coming. Stay where you are, in an aggressive tone. She can't do it. So she ends up leaping to happen. So technically she disobeyed and she should be fired, but it's Robin's fault. So he should be doubly fired because he puts himself and others in danger. Ha ha. That's hypocrisy because Steph does that. Okay. let's continue on. Then all of a sudden, Alfred appears out of nowhere to help. He is in the thick of things, into the thick of things. He throws some sort of gas bomb. I don't understand how he's got a gas mask on, but Batgirl and Robin don't, but they're okay. But anyways, the gangs dissipate. There's some rioting. And then after that's a firing right there because he also intervenes. And then Batman arrives and he says, Alfred, I told him not to engage. Alfred is just super calm as a cucumber. Step aside, Alfred. And then Alfred disobeys and he says, no, we could have lost him tonight. And I know that scares you, but for once, you are not to turn your fear into misplaced anger. You can direct as much fury toward me as you need to, but Master Richard is hurt. He needs comfort, not admonishment. Take off the cowl and leave your disapproval at the door. Do not enter. So he should also be doubly fired because he disobeyed his employer. He disobeyed his employer and did not step aside. Oh, he should be triply because he disobeyed. And then he also disrespected him by saying, you need to not be a jerk, basically. And then, of course, at the very beginning, he leapt into that action. But we do see that there is a kind little thing there. Oh, Dick apologizes. But Bruce says you don't have to be sorry. So he is able to. So probably all of the above. But again, I tell you that somebody trolled me. 2 people trolled me. I'm not certain, but I believe that one of those trolls could have been Donovan, and who even knows, some other person. So yeah, but that was, I really like that just because it gives us a sense of the rest of this issue of that he's always got to try, even if it's a really dire situation. And it just points to, I think this whole run with Tom Taylor is just really getting to maybe relearn who Dick Grayson is. And I think his heart is just really at the center of these stories here. We do see Marv Wolfman and George Perez Pizza, and they appear right there, which is great. And yeah, Bruce actually is not a jerk for the most part. And here they show up for this inaugural opening of this park. There's a nice little thing there. I completely forgot. So here's Blockbuster. Sorry, I completely forgot to give the synopsis of this. But anyways, Blockbuster and his sister, there's some threats. Superman comes because now they've got, a friendly relationship. And he gets Barbara trolling. I think that's the word of the podcast, trolling Blockbuster and saying, are you going to ask him for a selfie too with Superman? And then, of course, there's some stuff going down later on. I don't know what shirt Barbara is wearing. It seems like it says I killed something with an OM. I wish I knew what shirt that was, but some really awesome splash pages occur. And of course, Blockbuster, that's pretty awesome how they kind of do this not a spiral, a telescoping effect of panels. But Blockbuster had sent these guys to basically mess up this park. And then Nightwing gets on that. And then at the very end, basically Heartless appears, and I was thinking, oh man, he's going to kill Blockbuster because he doesn't want anyone to have Nightwing but himself. But actually he has a proposal. So I forgot to say, I feel like this publisher synopsis is wrong. This is 92. I don't know. It says Bloodhaven Mayor Melinda Zuko is in trouble pretending to work for Blockbuster while secretly working to take him down. Did I mess up? That's just what I got though. Interesting. Because then later on it said, yeah, this is wrong. Maybe it's for a future one. I don't know. How very bizarre. I basically went through it anyways. It's Nightwing's history with just trying and doing the best he can and really leaping in no matter what. And the inauguration of his foundation and the park and everything, and Blockbuster trying to stop it, and now Heartless. So that's basically it. Okay. So let's get into the main event, shall we? And that is Batgirls number 6. One Way or Another, part 6. Writers Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, artist George Corona, colorist Sarah Stern. We begin with Spellbinder painting a portrait, one of many, of Babs as she is tied up. He goes through a verbal manifesto, how he got to where he is today, and the fact that he uses brush strokes in tandem with a strain of fear gas altered to affect memory, thus triggering vivid flashbacks. Stephanie can attest to this, so he says, and he actually uses her name, Stephanie. He admits to controlling Tudor and that he aims to control society through its most powerful people. Just as he says that, Babs will be his masterpiece. She cuts through her ropes with a batarang and springs for him. Hopefully, the joke of them never being official dies as he gets pummeled to the ground. And actually, she's pretty ruthless, which I will show that later on. Meanwhile, across town at Arkham, Stephanie speaks some big truths. I feel like I'm mine. Sorry. Meanwhile, across town at Arkham, Stephanie speaks some big truths while she takes down Tudor, and I guess she thinks his scars are cool, which is a bit weird. On the roof, Grace O'Halloran is still reporting, and Cass rethinks taking on all those brainwashed citizens below. Grace slips, and Cass catches her, landing inside amidst the Tudor-Steph fight. Tudor calls upon the brainwash, and they work together to tie them up. That is a bit vague there. So Cooter, oh heck. Okay. Tudor calls upon the brainwashed, and Steph and Cass work together to tie them up. Okay. Back with Babs. As Oracle, she unmasks Spellbinder on a live stream, outing his plans and actions, and gives an uplifting speech to the citizens. Oracle has an antitoxin she will deliver to Arkham, and Cass and Steph go after Tudor, who now has a bomb vest. Through a miracle of costuming, Cass rips the vest from his body, and Steph drives Bondo and the bomb vest towards the river, saying, "I love you," to Babs and Cass before she explodes. That's right. Steph is DED dead. The next day, Cass is in mourning, and Babs tries to offer comfort over the death of Bondo. What? The girls come together talking about their wounds and bonding that they all have some, but at least they have each other. That they all have some wounds, but yeah. Grace reports on Spellbinder and the heroism of the Batgirls, perhaps bringing them back from their bad reputation. Suddenly, Seer interrupts their bonding time digitally and in person, and she needs their help. Next, break in at the Iceberg Lounge. I feel like I was not sharing. So let me try this again. Share screen. Is it doing it? Yes. Okay. You know what? I think, Hornacek, that if I see a green ring around a green box around what I need to share, then I'm sharing. But I didn't last time, so that's why I stopped. So you can tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. So looking at this cover, pretty interesting. At least we're on equal footing in terms of heads and not much bodies. It is interesting the portraits that he has. I guess we're just showing all of the cast. So Spellbinder is in front. We have some of the neighbors. I'm not sure who this dude is down here who kind of looks like a miniature kingpin. We have actual Spellbinder Dante. And then we do, Fido 5. Yeah, where is Fido 5 in this? That's a good question. Where did he go? And we had Grace and Steph and the serial killer old man neighbor and another member of the Saints. So, you know. Okay. Let us begin. I do wonder, as he's going through his manifesto and saying that Steph actually, Steph has seen the or felt the experience of this brainwashing. Is that a slip on the part of the writers, or was that intentional? And does that mean that if it is intentional, that he actually knows that Stephanie and Batgirl are the same? And if he knows that, how does he know the connection between Steph and Babs? And if clearly he knows there's a connection because he says, Stephanie knows, dot, dot, dot. Otherwise, why would you do that? It's like the insurance thing of like nobody knows who that is. Yeah, you want to do that unless somebody knows who that is. And then does he know that Babs is Batgirl slash Oracle? So a bunch of questions, and unfortunately they do not get answered. Though she does pretty outwardly use a batarang and beat him up. So, 1-to-1, he's or 1+1 = 2. Maybe he's putting it together. But Jim Gordon took a very long time to realize that his daughter was Batgirl. So, okay. So he explains, that people he reaches out to people to get their portraits, right? And this is how they're brainwashed. So if this is possible, or if this is, I guess, sure, it's possible. If this is what has happened, I am confused how he could get thousands and thousands of citizens to come and sit for portraits. Did Steph sit for one? When did that happen? Because, I feel like it's connected with the selfie she took way back. I don't know if that was issue 1 or 2. I think it was 1 because no, it must have been 2 because Tom was on. And I remember we talked about that. But fear gas doesn't work digitally, does it? So this is like my disconnect of like, okay, it makes sense with what you're doing, the fear gas and the brush strokes, but you have to be in person for this to work. It's not going to be transmitted digitally. And then when was Steph? We've seen Steph at all times. When did she sit for a portrait? So some of these things don't make sense in this particular issue. Mm. At one point during the monologue, which I think I will show, the home of Charles Dante, aka Spellbinder. Keep him talking. Villains love monologuing. This page here, I thought, oh wow, is Babs the purple box? Kind of like there was that reveal back in, was it Gotham Knights, where someone was journaling and you're like, who's the journalist? And then it turns out that it's like Bruce, a disconnected Bruce Wayne or something, like a third person that's inside his body. So I thought, oh wow. But then it doesn't make sense with the other issues, and then the remainder of this issue doesn't make sense. So there was a moment I thought, oh, maybe it's Babs, but I really don't think so. And if someone says it is, you will need to provide evidence with your claim. Did you? I do like the, oh yeah, this was really good. Talking about with Steph and Tudor really going at it again, the whole your scars are cool. It's everything else I don't like about you. I thought was pretty interesting, this interaction, and I think it goes further to prove what Donovan has, made a claim that this is Stephanie's arc, right? It's the Batgirl's arc, but really she coming into her own as well. But I love this, that I've always been an outsider. No one programmed me. I'm broken and I'm perfectly okay with that. And that's what I think is a message that it's great for Stephanie, especially coming from some of these things that I've read in the first half of this episode. Oh, and then she says, I like me. And then it's also it's great messaging, I think, for young women and girls that are reading this, and just in general, especially in this age of social media where we cultivate these perfect images and people post on Instagram, perfect portraits, and you don't see all the messiness, but that we all are broken human beings, and we work with that brokenness, and we do have to find a way to like and love ourselves and move on for that. And in some cases, and oftentimes, I would say that brokenness makes us stronger, right? Because we are living with something, but we're getting up every day and we're living. So I do really like that. I thought that that was pretty powerful. I also like at the very end, which I guess I can just skip there, where they're talking about their wounds, right? Everyone feels so broken right now. It's easy to believe someone else has all the answers, like someone else can teach you how to feel okay. That's Steph. Babs says some people's wounds don't heal. They aren't beyond hope, but they don't always get the help they need. And then Cass says, I understand that. I have wounds. Steph says, same. And then Babs says, yeah, me too. But at least I have you, is what Cass says. So, yeah, they all have each other. They all have shared trauma to a certain extent. They've got these wounds. But I think that those wounds make them stronger women, stronger role models, stronger heroes. And it's great that they can bond over that. So, I do really like that. Back to, of course, this guy. I felt like it was a bit anticlimactic. I mean, Babs, go Babs, right? For taking him down easily and viciously, I would say. She is pounding his face into the floor. Is it here? She's just going after him. Um, Then, of course, she uses Oracle to spread the word, but there was this is what I mean by being anticlimactic. There was all this buildup for Tudor. And then we find out that the real mastermind is Spellbinder. He takes Babs as a hostage, but then she's able to release herself, which again, go Babs, after the monologue. And then she, I would say, rather easily takes him down. Where's that? Let's yeah, she just goes, look at that. It's pretty violent. But I mean, go Babs, like she was dosed with something. And then, which is interesting because remember, she was knocked out in the previous. So, how is it so easy to knock her out before? But here she's got a dose of some toxin and she's still kicking. There's just some inconsistencies here. But I don't know. It's just like, I feel like Tudor was the main threat up to the end, even up to the end, because he was the one closest to taking the Batgirls down from the inside and from the outside. He was able to manipulate Steph. I guess maybe Spellbinder had a hand in that, but then he's got like multiple plans prepared, the bomb vest and all of that stuff. But here, Spellbinder's like the mastermind, and it seems like it was seeded and he's been around for a while getting everything all prepped, but I don't really see it as a real big bad guy. I don't think the threat was there as much as perhaps it should have been. The bomb vest, which I found pretty funny, not the bomb vest itself, but look at how she rips it off. No, 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 no. That's almost comical, like a cartoon where like someone's clothes gets ripped off. She just, I don't know. There's no other way to say it. She rips that thing off in a way that it should not have been able to be ripped off. So, oh well. I think what Steph has to say during the fight with Tudor and the bonding at the end are the two biggest takeaways from this particular issue. And it's interesting with all that has transpired with Steph and her development over this arc and bringing her low, bringing her high. Could you imagine if she had, which is crazy image there, if she had died, right? I love you over and out. Could you imagine if they killed Stephanie Brown off at this juncture? That is insane. But yeah, I like how it's she. It is she who does it. She gets the vest. She goes into Bondo, and I guess she does like a last minute ditch and lets Bondo, of course, explode and take the vest and everything. But she gets it. I think she finally. I don't think she needed the acceptance from the others, but I think she finally accepts herself and is like, yeah, actually, I am a worthwhile member of this team. So those are some positive aspects to this arc, whereas there are other confusing aspects that aren't really answered. So I think that's most, and they kind of keep you going. I knew something was suspicious because Cass is really broken up, but Barbara's okay. And it is good to have like one person who's somewhat, emotionally solid for another person to lean on in certain times. But I don't think Barbara would be able to do this because these young ladies are at times her responsibility. Okay. Hopefully they're finally broken up for reals this time. And then, yeah, so Seer popping in, what could Seer possibly want? And why would she or they, we still don't know the gender, or he, why would she, he, or they expect the team to help? I don't know. I can only imagine what's going to happen, but I don't trust it. And those ladies better not trust it either. Okay. I think, it was okay. It was okay. I was looking for a big bang at the end. I think this arc certainly got better towards the end, but I would say that I need to give it, Batgirls in general longer, longer and more grace, just for them to get their footing and fully understand these characters. So, some good character beats in this issue. Anticlimactic spell with Spellbinder. I think Tudor is probably the big bad in my opinion. And there are still some things I just don't understand. I the the portraits. I don't think those necessarily make sense. And then also how much Dante knows, because having all of that information could be disastrous for the girls. So I don't know. I don't know if that was a slip and the writers didn't catch it or didn't think it through, but there's a lot riding on that sort of information for sure. I'm going to give this 8 out of 10 cup nudes. I think I forgot to grade it as cup nudes last time. Okay. So, winding down, first off, I've got my anime watch list, and technically it is an anime, even though it is DC related. I watched because it popped on HBO Max. I thought, oh, why not? Catwoman Hunted, which came out in 2022, pretty recently, an hour and 18 minutes. And it was written by Greg Weisman. And there's actually an interview where he had stated something like the events here happened or like happened alongside some of the events that were going on in Young Justice as if they were in continuity. So it's very interesting. So let's see. The little synopsis is follows Catwoman in an attempt to steal a priceless jewel. This puts her squarely in the crosshairs of both a powerful consortium of villains, Interpol, and Batwoman. They used both improperly there. But the Batwoman is interesting because I thought, okay, Catwoman is certainly someone who I believe is pretty free with her sexuality. We could probably call her bisexual, I think. And of course, Batwoman is a lesbian. So is there going to be something here? And I didn't know that it was kind of in continuity anyways. I wonder like what part Batman had to play in all of this. But because of a later instance where Batwoman actually calls her cat and she gets really upset about that and says he only calls me that, then there's just no chance, no way for them to really like would they have hooked up. But then there's like this seduction scene which is almost too intense and made me feel uncomfortable. There's clearly a reason why she's doing this, but she was making poor Kate really uncomfortable and flustered. Oh, it almost was like borderline sexual assault. But it was also interesting that Kate was definitely turned on enough to the mask came off. It was crazy. And she was, I guess, willing to just have that hookup, even though they were on mission. So I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was interesting, beautiful animation. It was anime style, which is why it's in my anime watch list. And yeah, I mean the story was pretty good and got to see characters you don't necessarily see interacting with each other. Julia Pennyworth was there. Yeah. Okay. And now finally, literature recommendations. So I don't even okay. I found it. I sometimes I forget where I stopped. Okay. So from my Daria reading list, Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. And man, the first Vonnegut I had read was Slaughterhouse Five, and I just thought it was so weird that I didn't like it. And now I've read one short story and now two other novels by him, and I'm starting to like him and just expect and lean into his weirdness. And I can totally see why this would be controversial and people have trouble and not like what he is doing with racial interactions and things. That's why like people it made people uncomfortable basically. But it's definitely a satire for sure. So he's leaning into race relations and like basically being very bald-faced about it. And that's why people are upset, because sometimes when you look truth in the face, it makes you uncomfortable. That is white fragility. Did I say white privilege before, way back when? I meant white fragility. Okay, The Wish by Nicholas Sparks. That was, I would say it was okay. I certainly liked, I think, the flashbacks better, and I was expecting to be like heartbroken, but then I was worse heartbroken than I thought I would be. Jane Eyre, the manga by Crystal S. Chan, and illustrated by Sunika Lee. And you can hear that on my Dear Reader episode. How Do You Live by Genzaburo Yoshino. And this is Miyazaki's favorite childhood book, and it's going to be his final film. It's narrated in two voices. The first belongs to Copper, 15, who after the death of his father must confront inevitable and enormous change, including his own betrayal of his best friend. In between episodes of Copper's emerging story, his uncle writes to him in a journal, sharing knowledge and offering advice on life's big questions as Copper begins to encounter them. Over the course of the story, Copper, like his namesake Copernicus, looks to the stars and uses his discoveries about the heavens, earth, and human nature to answer the question of how we will live. And I give this 5 stars. It's actually really powerful, but I have no idea how you would adapt this into an anime, frankly. I read The Dharma Bums, another Daria reading list by Jack Kerouac, and I wanted to see if it would pop up on our hiking segments that we've been doing over at Required Reading, but there's not as much hiking. And Jack does not reach enlightenment, and it does, it is a bit meandering. If you've read On the Road, I think you should be used to it. But yeah, it's interesting. I read Serial Volumes 1 and 2 by Terry Moore, which stars Zoe from Rachel Rising and kind of her own story, and she's tracking down a serial killer. Then Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty. And this is my second one, I think, of because I did Big Little Lies, of course. And no, are Little Fires Everywhere? No, that's somebody else. It was interesting because it's a twist, but it's almost like a twist of not a twist. But that's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil things, but it takes place in two different times. One of them is the present, a mother has gone missing, and then the other one is like the past creeping up to the present, I think like a year prior. And you just get to know the family and the children and everything. And then finally, The Rising Storm, which is a High Republic novel by Kevin Scott. And this was okay. It's read, I'm not like super, super excited about them. It reads the same way as the initial High Republic, Light of the Jedi, I think it was called. And so if you weren't like super hyped about that and too many characters, it's going to be the same thing. I'm not going to lie to you. It reads the same way, which probably people were told very specifically to keep in the same style. It has mostly the same characters, got a couple new ones. There is some pelvic affiliation, and there are some queer characters, so they certainly are expanding in that way. But yeah, not too much, I would say, but the ending was so intriguing that I have since gotten the third. So I am at least keeping on, but it's up to you. If you like Star Wars, you want to give it a shot, start with Light of the Jedi and maybe give the second one a shot. But I think things are not going to change for you if you were a bit cool on it. Okay, this is it. I feel like this is a long episode. Okay. Well, remember that you can send any questions or comments to backrolltheoracle@gmail.com. Like the show on Facebook, follow it on Twitter, subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version where I accidentally say a physiological item. I wonder if anyone will catch it, but I slipped and said that, which that reminds me of. Oh, I can't say it on, well, no, I could. Heck, one of the f one of the nights we were performing, this I'll cut this out. You only get this with video because, um, I've already said one thing, but and I've said, oh my gosh, all of the things I've said in this episode. Men on boats, one of the nights, somebody slipped and said something wrong about their boat. There was a boat called, I think it was Kitty Clyde or Kitty's Clyde, something like that. And there had been a joke during rehearsal about like Clitty Clyde or Clitty Clyde, which I think it's known as a spoonerism when you switch them up. And when you say like, what if dot 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 that thing's going to happen, or slips of, if you talk about somebody and you call them this other name but only to some people, that you're accidentally going to call them that in real life, that it's going to happen. So we were performing one night, and it was not my boat, but the person, she definitely said Clitty Clyde or Clitty Clyde. And of course, this is like at the end. We've reached our destination. And she said Clitty Clyde. And I don't know. There were people behind me, of course, my castmates. And I was facing the person who said that. I'm sure I had some maybe twinge on the face, but yes. So sometimes people slip. There you go. Okay. Anywho, you can also follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well, and support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. If you're in New York City, go see For Colored Girls. I implore you. Beautiful and powerful. Until next time, which I think it's going to be some Birds of Prey, the last Birds of Prey arc before Gail Simone begins. Uh-oh, we'll see. But until then, fly on, Babs lovers.